sure you guys stayed very busy over the years with huge events coming to the shores here at Hosager, especially in the last decade. You've seen a lot of incredible highlights for Kelly Slater. He's won this event in the past, but you look at his record over the last 10 years, it's not one of those events that he has the top honors on at the CT venue.
No, he's, I'll tell you what, it's been one of those tricky events for Kelly. Mick Fanning's had it all his own way here, so he's going to be the guy to watch. But when the waves are like this, though, that's when Kelly starts to fire up. That's when those competitive juices start flowing. So it's going to be interesting to see if Kelly can shake off that wipeout he had yesterday and bring some game here in the first heat of the day.
Also, Jadson Andre entering this lineup, the goofy foot from Brazil, had a huge result here last season. Was able to make the final and finished runner-up to John Florence. It was a huge effort for Jaddy. As we know, he fell off tour in the past, came back on, and then was able to celebrate that huge second-place result, the Quicksilver Pro. And also Brett Simpson, when you go back to 2010, he made a semifinal as a rookie out here at Hosager, really comfortable in beach break conditions, and was able to make it all the way to that equal third, finishing under Kelly Slater in that matchup back in 2010.
You know, Brett's had pretty much his best results in bigger, gnarlier conditions. You know, and you'd think that, there he goes there, just a quick little in and out from him.
So Brett Simpson getting on the board. You can see the clock ticking away as we're getting this first heat started. Brett Simpson just trying to get the first score. Quick little forehand tube. Priority, we always love talking about it in these three-man heats. How is it really going to play a factor today, Potts, with this lineup?
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be too much of a factor, Joe. I think there's going to be a lot of waves ridden. There's going to be a lot of small scores as well. I think it's one of those days when there's going to be 10s and 2s. Obviously, the barrel is what these guys are going to be looking for. And you look at the judging criteria, obviously commitment and a degree of difficulty will be a major part of that scoring potential. But it's all about the tube ride out here today.
Well, you think of Kelly with a win over Dane Reynolds a couple of years ago, but he has been really consistent, always basically guaranteed at least a quarterfinal finish. He's only had 2 years where he's had equal 17ths, so still producing big results. He's had a streak since 2008 where he's at least in the final series. A lot of semifinal exits. He had great clashes at the early part of his career competing out here with guys like Andy Irons. That's who he went down to in his first semifinal at the Quicksilver Pro Friends.
Yeah, you know, you sort of talk about one of those events where he hasn't really excelled. He's been very consistent, but those wins have been eluding him.
As we look at Kelly getting spit out of a little racetrack right into a roundhouse wrap. Nice little tail slide. He'll lay back and he looks to recover. He'll go down on the final move. So Kelly flying out of the tube quickly. Brett has a score. That'll be coming in. Now Jadson holding priority. We mentioned a wipeout and a free surf he had yesterday. That rang his bell. Looks like he's fine, Potts. Look at this one.
Yeah, beautiful barrel right there. You know, and it's conditions like this that really get Kelly going. You know, it's he's always constantly looking for that motivation. That's something that's going to, you know, give him that spark. You know, rekindle that competitive fire that he's, you know, sometimes has been lacking this year. You know, we heard Ross and the boys on the desk talk about the fact that he's kind of had a weird year in the sense of the ocean's been eluding him, but I think there's been a few mistakes thrown in there as well. And you know, I think Kelly just needs to get that ball rolling. Once he does, it's on.
Now Jadson Andre on a solid left that's running down the beach. A big drop on the takeoff, and Jadson Andre doesn't reappear on the other end. So now all three surfers will get on the board in just a moment. Now 26 minutes to go. If you're just joining us, this is the first heat of the Quicksilver Pro. We had a short delay because we moved to a bank up the beach that our commissioner, Karen Perro, saw more opportunity, more spread out peaks to pop up, lefts and rights on offer, which makes it fun to get this thing started. Beautiful offshore conditions. Looks like Brett now packing it nice and deep. Stays wide open for Simpo to come out clean. Full wrap on the inside corner. Off the top float, Brett hangs on. 2 quick waves for Simpo to put him out to an early lead.
You know, and it looks like the jet skis are going to be in effect today. The guys are going to be coming into that inside section, getting on the back of the ski and then back out into the lineup. So nice wave there for Brett Simpson. He's going to need those big barrels, Joe. He's going to need those ones where he kind of falls out of the sky and just pulls straight up under the curtain. So critical surfing is what it's going to take to beat Kelly today.
As we look at Brett Simpson, you can see how he's at the back end of the rankings. Now 30 years of age. The last couple of years on tour for Brett, he's been hanging on, doing both tours, the qualifying series and the championship tour, and just trying to keep his name in the mix as one of the best surfers on the top 34 as we take a look at this last wave.
Yeah, nice positioning there. You could see further up the board as well. You know, you got to get your feet. You can't really, on these late drops, you know, you don't want your feet right back on that tail pad. You almost want to be leaning forward, a little bit more front foot weight there just to get that front rail into the face of the wave and then drive through that barrel, which he did perfect. So Brett Simpson there, nice little score for him.
So last couple of days has been absolutely shredded with onshore conditions. As we see more waves underway, Jadson Andre stalling on his backhand. Quick little cover up now. He's into turns on the inside corner. Snaps it off the lip. He'll be hung up and end up being a little bit incomplete on that final turn. Simpo's opener comes in at a 3.5. And then we'll see how Kelly did on his last effort. We love events where there's plenty of opportunity, a ton of consistency. Amazing how one day can be victory at sea and gigantic the next morning. Sun's starting to come out, and we're really set for a big day, Potts.
Yeah, you know, it's that kind of place. It's you've got to be so ready for anything. You know, as you said yesterday, victory at sea, definitely not surfable out here, but a little bit of offshore wind and overnight that completely cleaned the lineup up, and we've got some great waves on offer. So we're going to see some great heats through the day. Obviously, it's going to change with that high tide. So, you know, don't be surprised if we move back to the bank right in front here at the contest. It's going to be one of those events where the commissioners and the surfers are going to be keeping their eyes on a lot of different parts of the bank.
Coming up next, Julian Wilson, Miguel Pupo, Aritz Aramburu will be coming up next. Aritz Aramburu will be the fan favorite here on the beach of Hossegor. Aritz representing Spain. We have a lot of Spaniards here on the beach to root him on to a big finish. And Aritz has been worthy of that call-up as an injury replacement. We remember what went down to Mick Fanning when he drew Aritz back at the Billabong Pro Tahiti this year, Potts.
Yeah, well, he did some damage, didn't he? And, you know, this is the kind of surf where he can do well. It's those tricky conditions. It's those, you know, situations where it's that a little bit of luck involved. So Aritz's got that. He's kind of a wave magnet, you know, which means basically that he's going to be on the good ones no matter where you are. And here is one of those places where you need a little bit of that luck going your way.
Well, once we made the announcement that we're switching banks, we had this entire crowd that was here in the dark shift up the beach to watch the world's best. He's a very knowledgeable surf culture right here that watches the world's best every single year at this time. And Kelly's been aware of that his whole career. He opens up with a 7.17. Simpo had his 3.5. Now Jadson a couple of waves to lock in with 21:45 to go. But thinking about this big crowd that we always look forward to seeing every year, Potts, how does it really compare to the other crowds on tour?
Well, as you said, very knowledgeable. You know, a lot of these people, it's off-season here, so it's not that peak summer conditions where you've got a lot of tourists on the beach. These people are all basically here for the event itself, so there's no accidental fans here. These people travel from all parts of Europe and around the world to come here and watch this event. It's kind of one of the highlights, you know. It's the town's quite sleepy, but as soon as the surf comes and the day warms up, this beach will get packed.
As we look at numbers now, Brett Simpson an 8.17 on the second effort. Kelly down to second with just his single score of a 7.17. Andre, ones and threes to start, but now 21 minutes to go. Brett looking to hang on to a crucial moment here with the lead, but now Kelly looking to slow down. He'll pull in a tricky little tube option, and it's going to bottom out and take out Slater right on that inside section. Now Jadson up and out.
Yeah, wave selection today, Joe, is going to be very important. And it's kind of, you can't really sit around and wait either. I mean, it's shifting conditions. You know, the old saying of here in the southwest of France, if you're looking at it and it's good, it's too late because that's how fast things move here. So you've got to constantly be keeping yourself in check on where you are on the bank, what waves you're looking for. You know, you can't afford to sit in one place. You've got to be on the prowl, up and down that bank, trying to find the best little section. Sometimes they'll be further up, sometimes back on the other side. So you've got to constantly be repositioning yourself.
That's the crazy part about the beautiful sand that you have here in Hossegor. You always try to find the best sandbars, sandbanks up and down this great beach. You talk to guys like Alain Ryu to really make sure that the guys are surfing the best part of the beach at all tides, at all times of the day. But Potts, you spent so much time here. You actually lived here for a while. If you have a bank that you're loving to surf one day, can you rely on it for a month? How long do these banks last sometimes?
I don't think you can even rely on it for a couple of hours, Joe. I think that's, with the tidal change here as well, there's so much water coming in and out. It's constantly changing. I mean, you look at a little section of the bank that could be closing out at low tide. That's probably where you're going to be surfing at high tide. With the bank that these guys have got right now, we've got a high tide around 2-ish this afternoon. It is going to be such a different spot. Where these guys are going to be sitting right now, it probably won't even be breaking. That's how deep it'll be there. So, to rely on a bank for over a period of time is impossible here.
Looking at 18:50 to go in the first heat of the Quicksilver Pro. Brett's still out front and holds first priority, 8.17 and a 3.5. We've seen him win 2 U.S. Open titles in his career. Came out of the gates as an exciting rookie back in 2010. That was the year he made the semifinals here in France. At that stage, he was starting to set his goal as making a final at the CT level. He became a family man. Things started changing in his career. He actually had a couple of injuries this year, and his back injury held him back from competing at the Fiji Pro. Said he's feeling a bit better, but now he's got to be seeing the end of the season, and he might be thinking about what would happen if he did fall out of the top 34. So it's kind of a must-win situation. When you see Brett behind the scenes, he looks real comfortable. He's going out there with a game plan, and every time he puts a jersey on, he plans on winning.
Absolutely right. I mean, that's he's not on the tour because he wants to lose heats. I mean, that's just not in these guys' mindset, and it all comes down to that. The difference between a good surfer and a great surfer is that headspace. We always talk about that confidence thing. It goes a long way in the sport of surfing, and when you've got it, you can see the guys that have it. They compete well. They make the right decisions. They don't fall off as much. And then the guys that are lacking it, you can really tell their decision making is not spot on. Their wave selection is not right, and they make mistakes. So it's that fine line that you've got to try and find.
Well, Potts, we're noticing this big playing field. You can see Brett in the white jersey way out to the right of your screen. Kelly right in the middle. Jadson wearing the blue jersey. So they have plenty of room in between each other. No one's sitting on anyone. They've got a huge lineup to work with. Jadson likes the left that he's found. Driving through a hollow section. He'll straighten out to earn the finish. Jadson ditching a 1.33 without effort.
Yeah, Jadson opting for the left-handers, which isn't a bad move for him. You can see he had to really hit the gas there to get out of that little barrel. Just needs to get the ball rolling, try and find a couple of scores. See him stalling on the takeoff. Now he drives through that section. Why? Because that thing closed out, so he needed to get out, which he did. So he's going to go into his top 2, trying to better a 1.33, but really needs a wave up in that excellent range if he wants to try and compete against the Simpson and Slater.
Watching Andre just on land or in the water, he's a guy with high energy. He likes moving a lot, likes staying really busy. As we reflect back to last season when he made the final, it was he almost made us laugh at the end because he started giving up. He'd taken off on so many closeouts. He spent so much energy fighting so hard for another CT win that he just came in absolutely gassed. He was quick to congratulate John Florence. But with that high energy, you could see the risk involved, taking so many waves. But during that final last season, it was not the waves he was looking for the win.
Very similar conditions to this, maybe a little bit bigger last year, but that's the kind of what you got to do. You got to roll the dice, and sometimes you take off on those ones that don't look like they're going to let you out. They do. That's when the big points come. Looking at last year, I think the only guy that was really comfortable out there was John. To me, I was talking to one of the judges this morning, Patama, and we're talking about how last year the average heat score was super low. Up until John paddled out, he was always up in that 17-plus point range. So tricky conditions, and John was the one that really found the diamonds in the rough.
So true. There was that one round before the quarters where we saw John completely take over. Multiple nines. I think the only other 9 that round, Kelly had 1 9, but he made it look so easy, which the theme was saying how challenging and tricky it was until Florence put the jersey on. John still acting as the defending champ. He'll be out later on today in heat number 8 of this round as he takes on Alejo Muniz and also Jeremy Flores, who's had such a brilliant return to form.
That's going to be a tough one. Jeremy loves these kind of conditions. Feels right at home. So does John. So I think this is going to be a very, very tough battle there. Alejo's definitely going to try and find his way into that heat because it's going to be game on for sure.
So now looking at 14:25 to go. Brett still has his lead out front. Andre getting a 3.77 on his last days in third, still chasing down a 7.91 to get a move on towards the back end of this heat. Exciting morning, offshore winds, and it's pumping here in Hossegor. We'll take a quick break. We'll be back at the Quicksilver Pro France right after this. Good morning and welcome to the southwest of France. It's a beautiful day here to start off the Quicksilver Pro, just on the 3rd day of the waiting period. In the lineup, Kelly, Jadson, and Brett Simpson are looking for a spot to go straight into round 3. Remember, non-elimination format. 2nd and 3rd will be reseeded in round 2. Brett is the low seed in this matchup, and he has the lead out there wearing the white jersey representing Huntington Beach, California, and a big 8.17, which reminds you how dangerous he can be, especially in beach break conditions. This is where he's gotten his best result as a championship tour surfer, but he's got a lot of pressure on his shoulders coming into the back end of the year as far as requalifying is concerned. He's had that same pressure, though, the last couple of seasons, and he's been able to turn things around and requalify.
You know, I think when you find yourself in a very similar situation, you kind of learn how to deal with it, and I think he's doing that.
Now having a look, Brett Simpson loving the barrels out front. Full wrap once again, a beautiful roundhouse cutback into the inside, blitzes the finish, but then falls right on the end section. So you can tell Brett loves these beach break barrels. He's had a few of them in this matchup. Now down to 11:30 to go to see if he can hang on to this lead.
You know, even though it is a beach break, Joe, it's, I think, considered a heavy water wave when it's like this. It comes out of deep water. Brett takes off late, pulls straight in. This is going to be another great score for Brett Simpson. He's going to definitely turn the heat up on Kelly. Big, beautiful wraparound cutback there, and then just didn't quite finish that last turn off. So just got to make sure you finish those last maneuvers off and show the judges that complete control. But I think the damage was done. I think it's going to be another good score, maybe in the 7-point range. He's going to better that 3.5. Kelly needing a good score to get himself back in the heat. I think Brett's going to crank it up a little bit, so this could be a good result for Brett.
So far, so good for the Californian. 10:45 remaining on the clock here. Priority is with Kelly Slater. Just happy to see Kelly here in France as he just steps off of a wave out the back. Remember back when he lost to Mick Fanning at Lower Trestles, he was kind of saying that he might take a look at the numbers to see if he would be showing up for the European leg this season. Looks like he's found something solid. This is Jadson Andre. Forehand option. He'll pop out the other end, deep off the bottom, and hammers it. So Jadson Andre sticking to his game plan on these hollow lefts. He's had a couple of threes and a much better opportunity on this last effort, Potts.
Yeah, it was a good one there from Jadson for sure. It's going to be his best wave. So, tell you what, 10 minutes to go as the jet ski goes down.
Timed it well.
Yeah, timed it exactly right. But that's how tricky it is out here. I mean, these guys are all experienced water patrol. Kelly up and riding.
Kelly now just setting up a little section on the inside. He'll slow down, pulls in. Nice line for a moment, trying to recover from that whitewater hitting him in the head. He'll end up going down. Now the jet ski is upright. Jadson's on the back hanging on.
Yeah.
You know they're already celebrating that perfect connection right up to the sled. And then just, things got a little tricky on the inside. That happens all the time, huh, Potts?
Yeah, it sure does, Joe. That's the thing with this thing called Mother Nature, the ocean. It's such an unpredictable entity, and things can happen. As soon as you drop your guard, as soon as you think you've got it all worked out, it rears its head and gives you a wake-up call. So Jadson, though, that's going to definitely be a good score for him. Kelly's last wave, I think he's on the wrong ones at the moment. Jadson beautifully drives through that section there. Nice long barrel, but this is what I like. Finishes off nicely on his feet. That's what you got to do. Kelly's wave selection at the moment, apart from his first one, that 717, it's kind of been a little bit off, Joe.
That's right. So now Jadson trying to make up for that. After Brett got his last in as a 6.67, Andre was actually comboed. Kelly was looking for a 7.68. So Brett staying with his lead. Andre should be able to break free of the combination with that last wave coming through. As you see Kelly getting the water patrol assistance just after a quick little wave on the inside. He's been changing his boards almost every single event. He kind of did that even when he was full-time with Channel Islands in his career. Always kept us guessing. And now he's got even more boards to choose from. And you kind of never know what he's going to end up with.
Yeah, I don't like it. I think you've got to kind of find those magic carpets and stick to them. But that's probably a brand new board. Kelly was damaged the board he was riding yesterday, so he's obviously on something new. Probably never ridden it before. Probably didn't have a warm-up surf this morning, so just getting used to that board on the fly. I mean, he's good enough to do that, and he's been doing that all his career, but he's kind of open yourself for a slow start. Maybe things can happen that you're not quite ready for, and trying to find that sweet spot because there's no dents on the deck yet. You've got to kind of create all that footprint we talk about.
As we look down the beach, a hollow section for Kelly to punch out of. Now looking to go to turns. And he'll end up hopping out of there. So a deep section for Kelly to answer back quickly. 7 minutes to go with conditions like this. Perfect wind conditions, solid swell out the back. Things can change in a matter of seconds, especially with jet ski assist out here.
Yeah, you can turn a heat around real quick. I mean, less than 5 minutes, you can get yourself out of a two-wave combo and, really give yourself a shot. So you've just got to be on the right waves. A little bit of luck go your way. Definitely a better wave there for Kelly. Let's have a look. Takes off late. This is the kind of wave you need out here. Driving through that second section. Kind of got caught just a little bit at the end there, but solid enough on his feet to get through that end section. Kicks out. So it's going to be a good score. 7.72 required from Kelly to get himself into that first spot. Simpo, he's going to be a little worried after watching that one.
Down to 6:20 on the clock. A crucial moment for Brett Simpson to hang on to his lead. A great total. One of his better totals of the season, 14.84 for the Californian. Andre got out of that combo situation, getting a 7.13 with the left. Had the barrel to turn combo. And now Kelly will be replacing that 1.37 in a moment. So things heating up here in this opening round of this matchup. When we shift banks, we had a few competitors still down out front. And so they're just figuring out their lineup spots. Here's Kelly. Big hollow section for the 11-time world champ. Looking for an exit. He'll end up going down.
Wow. That could have been a huge score right there for Kelly. I think that had 10 written all over it, didn't it, Joe?
Sure did. Looking at the size of the tube, he looked so comfortable and composed. It ends up just pulling into a big closeout on the inside corner. Just seeing that lip flare out just reminds you why we love coming to Hossegger every single year.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of didn't really look like much on the takeoff, but once it hit that bank, it just went square. And even the great Kelly Slater couldn't come out of that one. Let's have a look at it again and see what happened here. Took off there, just had to stall and just unloads on the bank there. Double section. Thought he was coming out of that, but it just kind of ran away. So Kelly biting off a little bit more than he could chew on that occasion. But I like it. I like the attitude. I like that go for it style of surfing that we're so used to seeing from Kelly.
Down to 4:42 remaining on the clock. Slater's last score of 5.83 holds him in second. Brett still has his lead as we check out the heat recap from the opening heat of the morning. Came down to a brilliant tube ride from Slater, got in the 7 range. Big roundhouse wrap, got to the inside, slid out the fins, and got on the board. Then Brett Simpson started opening things up. Got into the excellent range, 8.17, a point better than Kelly's ride. Was able to back it up. He knows he's in a crucial position to go straight to the round 3. And let's see if he can hang on.
Yeah, no, Brett, so this was his 8.17 right here. Beautiful score there for Brett Simpson. That's what he's got to do against the great Kelly Slater. Watch out for Jadson, though. Jadson's on a bit of a comeback roll as well. It's all about the barrel, Joe, and you talked about how quick and easy it is to turn heats around. There's Jadson taking the left-hander and comes out of the end of that one. Capitalizes with a beautiful turn to finish things off. So everyone really has got a good score on the board. It's all about that backup right now. And Brett Simpson with that 6.67 as his backup is in that number 1 spot. Kelly not looking for much. Jadson out of that combo situation. Just over 3 minutes to go.
Round 1, heat number 1, about to come to a close here. Just a few minutes on the clock. Wilson taking on Miguel Pupo. And Aritz Aaron Brew coming up next. Slater at the moment needs a 7.68 to turn this one around in one wave. Non-elimination, so could end up going to round 2. A round that Kelly's never lost in Quicksilver Pro France history. As we know, he always takes on big wild cards at the early stages and usually ends up fighting through and comes close to winning this contest. That win he had a couple of years ago. I remember listening to your call, Potts, against Dane Reynolds. Waves were unbelievable for that event.
It was firing. That whole event was unbelievable. Just a pleasure to sit and watch and be able to be a part of that. You know, it's there's been a lot of events like that. I think one is one of the standouts for me too was Andy and Bruce in the finals at Lenoir. You know, 10 to 12 foot waves, sunshine offshore. I mean, it's just one of those places that you just can't wait to get to, especially as a competitive surfer. You know, you've got pretty much everything from your hot rod to those step-ups to maybe even something a little bit bigger because you just don't know what to expect.
It's the exciting part of coming to France. 2-minute warning in round 1, heat number 1. See how beautiful the conditions are this morning. It's starting to warm up a bit. We got down here and it was about 11 degrees Celsius, about 52 Fahrenheit. And sometimes you'll be stripping off your jackets in board shorts watching the world's best. We'll see if it gets that hot throughout the day today. Right now we're looking at Kelly trying to turn this one around. Pulls in, great positioning. Looks like it's going to stay open just enough for the finish. Kelly sneaking out of the end section to provide a heroic moment to try to steal the win off Brett Simpson. We're down to 1:30. Potts, was that enough?
Well, 7.68 required. It's kind of, you know what, the judges don't like it when you got to manufacture it, when you slow down. They like it when you drive through that section. You know, you take off and it's all about the gas. See Kelly hitting the brakes right there, driving through, just got clipped on the way out. So he's going to be close. I mean, it's going to be a good score, but is it going to be a 7.68 that is required? I'm not sure. It's going to better his 5.83, but I'll tell you what, it's is it better than his first wave? His first wave was a 7.17, which was a cleaner, bigger wave that was a little bit more manufactured. I don't think he's going to get it.
45 seconds to go. Now in the hands of the panel. They're looking at the same thing. Will it be enough to turn it against Brett Simpson with 35 seconds to go? Brett now still with priority. Out the back. Jadson Andre needs a 7.72, so he's still in the mix. It's been a wide open lineup. They've been surfing different parts of the bank. Score starting to drift in for Kelly Slater. As we make this decision, they'll take another look at this replay.
All right, that angle there has got a little bit of a different look, doesn't it? When you're looking into the barrel from the angle we saw before, it didn't look as deep. That section right there was definitely, this is the angle that we saw initially. You can see he's not looking as deep. He sort of almost, you could see him the whole way. But then from that straight on angle, which is where the judges are sitting, definitely went through those two sections. Definitely a different look. So the judges having a good, long, hard look. And we'll get that score to you soon.
Brett Simpson did well to control the lead from the start. Only took 3 waves in the matchup compared to Jadson and Kelly, who stayed really active. So you saw the difference there. Brett took control and waited for a special wave to come through, and we'll see if it's enough in just a moment here. Remember, Jadson made the final out here last season. Gets a lot of his big results on the QS in Europe. Feels really comfortable out here. Now numbers dropping for Kelly. It comes in at a 7.67. That brings a tie-break situation for the lead, and Brett breaks it on the single high score of an 8.17 and barely hangs on to his total out front to move on to round 3.
Wow, well, that was a mixed bag of scores. Everything from a 7.2 up to an 8.3. So the judges definitely undecided right there. 2 7.5s, an 8, an 8.3, and a 7.2. But as you said, Brett, with that single highest score, takes out the heat win.
A tie-break situation, and Brett hangs on, moves into round 3, one of the biggest performances of his season in 2015. It's a must-win situation, every heat for Brett from here on out, as he's chasing requalification. More action to come here at the Quicksilver Pro France. Julian Wilson takes on Miguel Pupo and Aritz Aramburu coming up next. It is a beautiful morning here in the southwest of France. You're watching the Quicksilver Pro, stop number 9 on the Samsung Galaxy Championship Tour. Julian Wilson, Miguel Pupo, and Aritz Aramburu are featured in round 1, heat number 2 of this draw. Wilson has done well to make the final here in the past. Pupo got to celebrate his first couple of CT events ever back when he got called up on the back end of the year at the mid-season rotation. Aritz Aramburu has been full-time on tour a couple of times, but he's basically surfing on his home turf. He spent so much time getting barreled up and down the beach here in France his entire life, and he's really excited for this opportunity. Joe Trappell alongside 89 world champ Martin Potter. Looks like these guys aren't wasting any time, and they're already getting on the board here.
Yeah, well, there's been a lot of waves ridden, and Miguel Pupo straight away on his backhand there, drives forward. I love the way he leaned forward right there just to set that front rail, that inside rail, I should say, and comes out with a couple of nice little turns. So Miguel Pupo starting quickly. Aritz Aranburu on an absolute bomb as he drives into that closeout. Almost came through that section. And that's exactly what you got to do.
Here comes Julian Wilson now pulling in. You can still see the red jersey as he makes it out. Coming off the bottom, clean hack off the roof. Jams it hard off the lip, and Wilson will straighten out. His best wave so far. He got clamped on one on the wave before that came in at a 1.23. Pupo's second score of 4.83. So an exciting matchup just getting underway here.
Yeah, it's a good one, isn't it? I mean, I love these heats where there's a lot of waves caught. You can see Julian just squeezing out of that one there. Not going to be a huge score, but it's going to get that momentum going. So important out here, sort of find those good ones. Once you get one good one, I think it's kind of almost contagious to a point where you're going to get another one. So finding that rhythm, finding that little section of the bank that's firing at this point. It's obviously changing as we speak, Joe. I mean, where they were sitting for Kelly's heat, probably a little different right now.
Well, you look at 25 minutes on the clock, and you can see all the decisions these guys have to make in this lineup. Making one right now is Aritz Aranburu. He'll get a quick little tube ride and hop out. Just a short one to keep his warm-up underway. We mentioned before that Aritz Aranburu got called up in Tahiti and knocked out Mick Fanning of the contest. And now he's looking to do more damage. Replacements now have a little bit more on the line as they can keep points. They never know when they're going to get the call up. Aritz kind of told us this year back when he got called up at the Fiji Pro that he'll basically change all of his plans to get this opportunity to compete at the top stage.
And why wouldn't you? I mean, it's not very often you get to mix it up with the world's best and take some of them down as he did in Tahiti. I mean, that heat with Mick Fanning was amazing. Aritz was on the good ones and just showed why he's getting the call up. He's no slouch, and especially in conditions like this. You talk about, lives just down the road in Zaraus, which is an event we used to have back in the day. Nice little beach breaks there, but cut his teeth in these kind of waves.
We look at these three names on paper, Potts. When you think about being a beach break specialist, does any of the three really stand out, or is it relatively even?
I think it's pretty even. I mean, Julian grew up on the Sunshine Coast, which traditionally a little bit longer sort of right-hand point break setup. Miguel Pupo from Brazil, a lot of beachies there. Aritz Aranburu grew up on these, so I reckon it's pretty even Stevens. I mean, it's that ability to be able to adapt, to find those little wedges, to not sort of pick a spot and sit there, have that confidence to move up and down and will the waves to come to you, and I think they've all got that.
Well, we have a little bit of everything on the championship tour as far as venues are concerned, from classic point breaks to big barreling, scary reef breaks on tour. And then you always have your beach breaks that you compare all the beach breaks to around the world. What are your favorite aspects of being in this region, and what makes this beach break world class?
I think it's just the variety. I think like you said, you can surf your little board out here. You can have these little hot dog sessions on these little A-frame banks, and then the swell picks up, and you've got death-defying tubes out the back. So it's just got everything. Beautiful offshore conditions. You've got the great air winds. I mean, it's got ramps everywhere. It's just a spectacular wave to watch because, it's got that spontaneity. It's got that just you never know what's going to happen factor.
The exciting factor right here is the waves are firing and Wilson's up on another one. That one's going to run away from him. Julian had a 5-point on his last. That had him in second. Just needed about a 1.6 to get the lead off Pupo. And Aritz just needs a 3.28. 22-25 on the clock. We talked about Wilson's run this year, an exciting roll that he was on after his Pipe Master and Triple Crown win at the end of last season. We started calling it a big comeback roll, but we were curious to see if he was going to survive the test during the offseason to stay hot, and he did, showing up in the final at Snapper Rocks.
And speaking about hot, I mean, didn't he just get engaged? So
that's right.
That's hot off the press. So ladies, Julian is definitely off the market. And let's see if it changes the way he surfs. I mean, it's, some things that happen in life like that just give you that extra little boost, and not that Julian needs any kind of boost. I mean, the kid's amazing as it is, but it's good to see him have a good year. I mean, he's a world-class surfer. He's definitely a top 10 a guy as far as I'm concerned, and potentially a world title is lurking in the sort of the wind.
That's right. Big congrats to Julian and Ashley. They'll be tying the knot. One of the things that was really cool about Julian, started bringing Ashley on tour. Remember back at the Mr. Price Pro Toledo back in the day when Julian beat Jordy in the final. He just found such a great comfort space having her on tour with him. You're saying it was almost like a good luck charm. He just felt so comfortable. Took the pressure off himself, and he really wanted to perform, and he's able to get those key results. Back then, we were kind of waiting for Wilson to get more consistency on tour on the CT level, and he's found that this year. Splitting the points at the J-Bay Open, finishing runner-up to Owen Wright at the Fiji Pro, which was incredible to watch, to see this guy has no weaknesses. You can put him in any venue, any conditions, and he's got a fair shot to take the thing out.
He's a part master, and I mean, that says it all. One of the toughest events on tour to win, and managed to take that out last year, which kind of got that roll going that you were talking about. But just with having Ashley on tour, I think sometimes you need a little bit of a distraction. I think if you immerse yourself 110% within it, you kind of can burn out real quick. I think having Ashley with him, taking time off and doing a bit of sightseeing on the lay days, get yourself away from the grind of the tour, I think can do wonders for you.
So Wilson looking to recover from a couple of early exits. Got knocked out early in Tahiti and at lower trestles. When we start to think about his chances to capitalize on this world title race, we mentioned, though, he finaled early out here in France. It was that young gun final against Gabriel Medina. We're kind of just looking to see who's going to outperform each other above the lip as we look at Wilson lock in on his forehand. A huge heaving forehand option. He comes flying out, springing into the air for the kick out. Wilson only needed a 1-6. He'll get that and some to take the lead with 19:30 to go.
Yeah, he was at the back of the line for priority, so there you go. Priority doesn't mean a thing out here today, that's for sure. Julian, what a beautiful water shot too. You could see how steep that wave was when he paddled into it. Kind of faded a little bit towards the left-hand side and then drew back around, which maximized that time in the barrel. That's exactly what you got to do. Now he's going to come in and get on that jet ski, save some energy. Look at this beautiful shot. You can see how he faded and then drove off the bottom. And Julian, that was a definite deep barrel right there. And that is going to go into the excellent range, Joe. That's exactly what you've got to do out here today.
Amazing ride from Julian Wilson. Comes in at a 9.5. Our best wave of the morning so far. Just into heat number 2 with epic conditions. This is exactly what we were waiting for. Wilson now with a 5.0 as his low. Puts a Reitz in a combo spot, and Pupo now needs a 9.67 to make a comeback.
That quick. I mean, that's how quick things can happen out here. Miguel had the lead. Julian just with a 5 in his scoreline. Talk about 10s and 2s. Well, there you exactly. 1.3, 1.1, 0.27, then a 9. A 9.5 for Julian. Best wave of the morning so far.
We kind of rewound the tape on a couple of key results from guys like Medina, Caio Abelli, who's getting the call up in this event from the World Junior Champs. And you kind of remember when Medina qualified for the tour, how skinny he was, how just whippy and always going to the air. And he filled out, and his game changed, and he became a power surfer and also started winning key events in locations where he wasn't expected to when he was real light grom, like in Tahiti. You kind of look at Julian Wilson, and that theme is the same for him as well.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, they're not kids anymore, They're growing up, filling out, doing a lot of training, working on that power base, and I think that's a very important part of surfing. I think maybe more important than the aerials and all that other stuff. I think you look at, the breaks around the world, there's a lot of waves where the aerials do not come into play.
We're looking at 17:10 on the clock here. Wilson with a solid 9.5 on the last effort. He represents that top 5 picture in the world. You can see there's a lot of space right out in front of the scaffolding. This is where we were set up first thing in the morning, but we shifted down the beach because we wanted to capitalize on a bank down the way. Our first heat winner was won by California's Brett Simpson. He's with Strider Wasilewski.
Thanks, boys. Yeah, here with Brett Simpson, Quik Pro France, 2015 Heat 1, the winner.
Yeah, tie goes to the runner. I beat him up here, so they let me win. It was really fun. I obviously had priority at the end there with Kelly, and you make decisions, and I didn't go, and he ended up getting that wave, and I looked at it right away, and I didn't really think it looked that great, but Kelly that's what he does, so maybe that was a mistake, but overall I thought I surfed a good heat. I finally, this year, last 2 years, I've been struggling, so just nice to get some good barrels, and obviously beat Kelly. It's cool.
So in that heat out there, talk to us about the conditions and where you sit. I mean, it looks like it's kind of a crapshoot from the beach.
Yeah, to be honest, it's much harder from the land. You get out there and down the way, it's kind of like teepees everywhere, and so you just kind of move about, and with the jet skis helps a lot. You're able to ride a wave in, get back out quick, and there's Julian on a nice one, but wow, and it's really fun offshore. 4 to 6 foot, it's pretty perfect. I want to go back out.
All right, well, congratulations, Brett. First heat's done and dusted. Get on to the third round. Can't wait to see more.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Brett Simpson and Strider Wazalewski. Brett with a crucial win there. He's honest with himself when he looks at his mistakes and heats right there. Heard the decision making. He was thinking that wave didn't have much on it. Kelly almost turns it. Brett ends up winning that first heat with a tie-break situation. Good thing for Brett, he had that 8.17.
Exactly. We talk about decisions that you make in life, and they're just as important out there in the water. Do I go? Don't I go? For me, if there's any doubt, don't pull out. Just go for it. You got to go with that gut feeling, that instinct, and sometimes you go against that, and it comes up to bite you. But lucky for Brett, he got that 8.17, and that was the difference.
That's right. He's had a couple of 13ths this year. One in Tahiti, also won back at Bell's at the start of the season. So Brett knows what he's in for, and he's off to the next one. Right now, 14:24 to go here in heat number 2. Wilson had the 9.5, a 5.0, and another amazing wave during that interview with Brett Simpson. Talk about getting on a roll. You find excellence, and sometimes you end up repeating yourself.
That's what I was talking about before. I think the important thing is to try and get a good wave under your belt. Once you do, you're going to back it up, and it kind of can be contagious, especially out here. You find that little section of the bank. Julian did exactly that and dropped another 9.30. As
we check out Pupo, just keeping his head in the game right there. Actually traveled for a little bit of time before going down. 1.77 before that. Pupo kind of had to go through what Brett's trying to break out of, is just reoccurring slump of second round losses. Pupo had a series of 25ths this year, and he finally snapped that at the last event as we look at Julian's last win.
Oh my goodness. Look at that. That's just classic stuff right there from Julian Wilson. A lot of people would pay good money to catch that wave right now, including myself. A 9.30. Look at that. Judges loved it all the way up to 9.7. I kind of thought it was better than his first wave. Came in just under, but nevertheless, 2 9+ rides for Julian Wilson. 18.80 two-wave total. A sign of things to come, Joe.
Well, that's the fun part about the judging panel. You have 5 judges on at a time. They drop the high and the low, and there's 2 judges on the panel that agree with you, Potts. Thought that second effort was just a touch better. On the average, though, you get a really fair result. 18.8 total. Pupo, Aritz, comboed at the moment. We mentioned how the crowd on the beach is heavily favored for Aritz Aramburu. He's one of the nicest guys behind the scenes. He's always given back to his community here in Europe. Recently had a Grom contest at Therath down in Basque Country. He had so many entrants pop up. He knows all the names of the young Groms that are going to be the next Aritz Aramburus, in the next 10 years. Hopefully to be in that same position that he is in right now in the Quicksilver Pro.
I think too, the popularity of him as well. I mean, look at this one, though, from Julian Wilson. That was the first one right there. Took off, angled, almost faded left and then drove right. This one here I like. Why? Because he's just driving through that section. A little bonus one at the end there. And then that big flyaway alley-oop almost just to finish things off. Julian Wilson on a roll. And obviously the commitment there to Ashley. putting the ring on the finger's done well for him.
So true. He's in a great space right now, loving his family. That's always first and foremost for him. And what an amazing athlete. You can see just when a surfer goes through a brief slump. Julian was in it last season. We talked about that with Brett, with Pupo, with Wilson even. A guy with his caliber of surfing, having to lose that many times can sometimes take people's rhythm out for a long time. As we'll bring up the Instagram from Julian Wilson posting the other day. Hopped over to Paris. What a beautiful place to make a great decision in your life.
Pretty good sized rock on the finger too there, so good on you, Julian. He's got some good taste. I'm sure Ashley had a little bit of a say in that though. From Paris with love, and I'll tell you what, Julian's getting a lot of love out there at the moment from the beach breaks here in Hossegor. A couple of beautiful waves, a 9.5 and 9.30. Standout performance so far this morning.
That's right. When you think about Wilson and his run in major finals, we remember that first win that he ever had was in Portugal, which will be the next stop of this season, when he had that really close decision over Gabriel Medina. There was Medina once again that he had to surf with at the Pipe Masters for his win. Lost to Medina out here in France. Seems to just be this repeat matchup, which is a rivalry I hope we'll be able to celebrate for another decade or so.
Yeah, I think we will, Joe. It's definitely going to be a rivalry between those guys, and there's a few other guys in the mix too. That's for sure. I think the Felipe Toledos, and there's just, I think the sport's in really good hands at the moment.
An epic time to be here at the Quicksilver Pro France with a solid swell. We still have 10 minutes on the clock. Cam Pupo and Aaron Burrow break the combo right after this. Julian Wilson on top of round one, heat number two, with an 18.8 combined total, and Pupo and Aaron Brew remain comboed here in Hossegor. 8:40 to go as we're trying to set up what's going to be happening in round three. It was the low seed Brett Simpson taking the first win of the morning, and now the top seed in this heat, Julian Wilson, completely dominating at the moment. Looking so comfortable in heaving barreling conditions. And things change in this waiting period, and comes closer to the beach where you have to really do that high-fly approach. Wilson's still among the best in the world.
Yeah, and that's what you've got to be. You've got to be able to produce amazing stuff in all kinds of conditions. The ability to ride the tube, take off late on big, heavy waves, then to mix it up and do that hot dog style surfing where it's above the lip. The power base. I mean, it's you cannot afford to have a weak spot in your surfing. If you don't excel in bigger waves, well, you're going to suffer because there's a lot of crazy waves on tour. If your air game's not up to scratch, then you're going to suffer in that as well because there's a lot of high performance waves. So, you're gone are the days of being that guy that can rip in small conditions. You've got to have the whole thing.
Well, Potts, when you think about other venues on tour, like reef breaks, like you think about Pipeline, some surfers have trees they're lining up with on land. Sometimes there's a piece of the scaffolding that reminds them where they're sitting on the reef. Come to a beach break like this, what are your tips on knowing where you're sitting so you can get the best waves possible?
Well, I think it's instinct. I think a lot of it is just knowledge of where you caught that last good one. Julian found that little spot, and if you look right now, I mean, there's not really a lot to line up with. You can pick an umbrella on the beach, or there's the corner of the white scaffolding, or the house in the on top of the hill. But because it's moving so much, you can't afford to sit there and wait for that because it is moving. It's sort of a mixed up swell with a lot of wind that we've had over the last few days. So the peaks are going to come up in different spots every time. You've just got to be able to adapt and move there real quick and try and find your little spot.
Well, Jeremy Flores in the GoPro breakdown was saying how this might be the hardest event on tour for him, from his point of view, talking about the changes that can happen down here. But he said that's what made it so special. He likes the challenge. What were the challenges he was really speaking of?
Well, just the challenge of trying to work it out. The challenge of being in the right place at the right time. The challenge of having the right board under your feet, making those right decisions. Which wave do I go on? First wave of the set, the second wave of the set, and it's, there's so much comes into play that you've got to have intact.
Looking at 6:10 on the clock here in round one, heat number 2. Wilson with a heavy total out front as we go into the heat recap. We saw an early start from Miguel Pupo. He got a 4.83, which is still his best. He needs to forget about this ride to make his comeback against Wilson. Always silky smooth. Aritz Aramburu also in that 2-3 range. Got a quick cover up. Looks beautiful from the side angle, but it was all about Wilson getting ultra deep. 9.5, 9.3 back to back.
Yeah, Julian Wilson, that's a great way to kick things off here. And this one right here, I love the fact he's driving through that second section, unloads. The judges nailed it right there. 9.5, 9.3. Imagine if you made that. It would have been a 12.5. But Julian Wilson definitely on a roll. And that's it, that's what you got to do. You got to find those good ones and make sure you get one, not just one, but 2 of them, because it came down to that last heat with Brett Simpson and Kelly, where even though Brett had that one good score, he still could have lost the heat. It was that close. So you've got to make sure you back the good ones up.
So true. And even watching Julian kick out, like you said, Potts, you got to watch him just in case. He's one of those guys that hasn't invented his own airs. Remember that sushi roll he did a long time ago in Japan?
Yeah, that was crazy, crazy stuff.
And he did more than a full rotation alley-oop. He released in a video segment about a month ago on a surf trip he had in Bali where it looked like he could make no mistakes. Wilson maybe in the best form of his career, improving that in this matchup. 4:30 remaining, and Pupo and Aramburu are still comboed at this moment. If you're hearing that near Miguel Pupo, Potts, how do you react to that situation?
Well, you just kind of write it off. 4 minutes to go. You've got to kind of just let go and just start surfing, having fun, fine-tune your skills for round 2. But, strange things happen. Those 9-point rides are out there, so you can't give up. Aritz is good enough to find those barrels and get a... Same with Miguel, there's definitely enough time with jet ski assist to get 2 good waves in 4 minutes.
So looking at this heat, you remember Pupo and Wilson had that exciting semifinal finish together at Snapper Rocks. It was Pupo's first ever semifinal in his career on the championship tour level. The decision on that result was decided on the sand. The judges took a look at the replay to decide the final, and it was Wilson taking on Felipe Toledo. That event, Pupo was doing some of the craziest backside turns at Snapper Rocks, but then he went into a little slide and it caught into a slump that he recently broke. What was happening to Pupo through the mid part of the season, could you tell, Potts?
It's difficult. It's, you get the ball rolling your way. It happens to so many surfers. You look at Silvana Lima, same thing happened with her. Still, to this point of the tour, the only girl that's had 10-point rides. She started the year good and kind of had that slip down the rankings as well. So it's a strange thing, you find that rhythm and then the next day you've lost it, and the harder you fight to try and get it back, the harder it is to get it back. And you make more mistakes, and there's a little bit more of the urgency factor that comes into play. So it's a weird old thing, the sport of surfing.
Big matchup coming up next. You see Hawaiian Sebastian Zietz.
We don't got much time, huh?
Right next to
3 minutes
California,
left.
Dane Reynolds. They're trying to figure out how much time they have until their heat starts. Waiting with security downstairs. Sebastian trying to wipe away that result from Trestles where he got the interference after the horn. Now a little backside tube ride for Miguel Pupo with 2:20 to go. Beautiful, clean style, always graceful. He'll get rid of a 177 there.
I'd have been happy with that. That was a cute little wave. But is it going to be enough? It's got to get something up in the 9-point range to even have a chance. 8.81, if he gets an 8.81, then he needs a 10. That's how tough it is right now for these guys in that combo situation.
Down to the 2-minute warning. Spaniard looking to make a move here. Aritz Aramburu sets up the right and just hops out of there. Just his 3rd wave ridden in this matchup.
What was Seabass and Dane doing on the beach? I mean, they've got 1 minute and 40 seconds.
I think they were discussing that, actually. Dane was like, wait, we don't have much time. They were talking to security.
I mean, it's not like there's a security issue down on the beach at the moment. There's not a lot of people, but maybe they're waiting for those jet skis to come in and get them out into the lineup. I think could be what they were thinking about.
Yeah, they're onto something.
It was a truck, because here they go. They're driving past us right now.
Okay, so we moved this morning, early in the morning, about 500 meters down the beach. So we have the competitors area a little bit further away from the lineup where these guys are surfing, and Dane and Seabass were just waiting for a lift to get down into the area. Dane getting the call up once again this season as a wild card. That's going to be really fun to watch.
Let me get this straight. They get a lift down to the water's edge. They get jet skis out into the lineup. I mean, what's going on these days?
I know where you're going with this,
hey?
Potts.
These guys are spoilt rotten.
They're born in the wrong time. What a great matchup on paper. Remember Seabass, the form he had at Lowers was maybe one of the best performances I've seen of Seabass in his career. And then lost it by taking off after the horn, thinking that he still could use priority on the Spartan. He'll look to recover from that. Then you have Owen Wright, who had the weird heat with Nat Young at Lowers. As we look at Julian packing a huge section on his forehand. Real foamy on the inside, and he's going to end up down on the bottom. Remember the 9.5, 9.3 he had back-to-back. And that closeout section for Julian will end up closing out this matchup. Keeps Pupo and Aritz Aramburu in a combo situation. As we hear the horn sound, Wilson flexing that top 5 position on the top 34, turning in the best performance of the morning.
By far the best performance of the morning, a 9.5, a 9.3. All about the barrel, as we talked about earlier. Julian Wilson finding 2 absolute gems. Miguel came back a little bit with a 6 on that last wave, but still not enough to get out of that combo situation. So Julian definitely looking sharp, Joe.
Great morning on hand as Wilson takes one for the top seeds. Owen Wright takes on Sebastian Zietz and Dane Reynolds in heat number 3. We'll bring in Ronnie Blakey and Ross Williams for the call right after this.
Welcome back. You are watching the Quicksilver Pro Round 1, Heat 3 now hitting the lineup, and in my opinion this is the heat of the round. Some of the real big names in the contest, some of the form surfers, Owen Wright, Sebastian Zietz and the wildcard Dane Reynolds getting ready to fight it out. Ronnie Blakey joined by former CT surfer Ross Williams. Who do you like for the victory in this one, Ross?
Ooh,
this is truly a perfect mix-up. I mean, Dane Reynolds, who knows? He could post a 10 and an 8, or he could just kind of sit there and cruise for the 30 minutes. Whereas Owen, I'm definitely going to peg him as the favorite in his heat. He has been on fire this year, but my sentimental favorite is definitely Sebastian Zietz. He surfed so well at lowers. He had that unfortunate incident with the interference, so I think most of the globe is pulling for him.
Well, let's see what unfolds in the first exchange. Owen Wright having a look at a wave there. It is firing at the moment. Let's hope this heat, which looks so good on paper, lives up to expectation. Pretty interesting first couple of matchups in the opening round. We saw Kelly Slater and Brett Simpson tied in that first clash. Simpo getting the nod over Kelly, and Jadson Andre with the highest single score of the heat. And then in the second heat, Julian Wilson dominated.
Jeez. Yeah, a couple of 9s. That's amazing. So, and it's not super easy to find those waves out there. It's not breaking on one specific point. It's a little mixed up. So you got to be in the right spot at the right time.
Well, here goes Dane Reynolds now. Grabs a hold of the wall of that wave, gets deep in the curtain, and then puts his board on rail. Just that raw style coming to the fore. Loving the fact that he's in the draw here.
Yeah, he's so exciting. And it's still almost everybody, is a favorite surfer, including a lot of the guys on tour. Love watching Dane. You just never know. He could produce the maneuver of the day without even blinking. So a nice start here for Dane. Clean little barrel there, and just kind of a clumsy wrap there, but no doubt he's just trying to get his feet in the wax, so it's a nice start.
Even when it is kind of clumsy for Dane, it still looks good. I just love the fact that he's just a little bit less refined and a little bit more raw.
He surfs so different from everyone else. He's got so much weight forward, and that allows him to do different maneuvers in different parts of the wave.
Well, there is definitely a big contingent over there in South Africa cheering Dane on. He announced early on that he was going to give his prize money to a charity, and he settled on a small foundation over there in South Africa called Surfers Not Street Children, and they would have been loving this first wave.
Yeah, great start for him. So I love that late drop there. We saw him tuck his arm into the wall there, kind of picking a nose. So great technique for Dane. Actually, a little bit under the radar for tube riding. Dane, very comfortable on these types of beach breaks. Where he's from in Northern California, in Ventura area, this is almost carbon copy. A lot of waves like this.
Just getting back out to the lineup, super challenging for the competitors today on the outer bank. And jet ski assist on offer as we see the first number drop for Dane Reynolds, an 8.77, a fantastic start for the wild card.
Yeah, so there it is, and I like the fact that he did kind of mention that he's an animal lover. He's always posts classic pictures of his pet dogs. So he mentioned he might be kind of looking for a foundation in that zone, but then he settled on this. So something struck a chord for him, and we've had a chance to meet these guys over in J-Bay, a great organization, and they go a long ways with that donation. I love the fact that he chose sort of a smaller foundation to that money's going to go a long way.
It sure is. Well, Owen Wright, we've been talking about him all year. You've been leading his float down the parade,
yeah,
Ross.
Totally.
But a bit of a slip up for Owen over there at Trestles. He had that really interesting heat. Potentially could have been a restart in that clash, but the judges felt that there was waves that went unridden, and it was really damaging for his title campaign.
I believe so. And his post-heat interview, too, you could see he was chafed. He was definitely irritated. He thought that there's been, a handful of heats that had restarts, that they didn't get it. That's the head judge's job. If they deem that you're messing around, kind of jockeying back and forth over in a channel, that's your fault. You need to be in the zone to catch waves, and that's kind of what happened there. So a little too many tactics bit him there in the end.
Well, here goes Owen now. Not waiting too long in this heat to get on the board. He grabs rail. This wave reeling off beautifully, but it doesn't look like he will find the exit. The decision made early on to relocate, just to get the surfers on the best of the banks out here.
Yeah, it was a tough call for Kieran Perot and Alain Rioux, our contest director here. The waves are definitely going off. There's tons of swell. It's clean. It's offshore, but the banks are new. And this bank in front of the contest where they kind of skipped this morning has shaped up a bit. So there's some great rides going down, but when they made the call, there was a lot of A-frames, maybe more reps, more waves available where they are now.
24 minutes remaining. You'd see Owen Wright in a fantastic position on the ratings in 4th spot, but cannot afford to slip up in these early rounds from here on in. He needs to get himself into the finals, and he needs to make sure he gets ahead of those 3 surfers above him on the ratings. He's going to have a shot going into the Pipe Masters. Just over 23.5 minutes to go. Owen's first wave came through at a 1.33. We're yet to see Sebastian Zietz take his first ride.
And Seabass tied for 22nd with Adam Melling, so he's on the burner there. He really needs to get cooking with a solid result to get away from that treacherous zone. None of these guys want to be kind of looking at that number right there. You want to get into the safety.
Welcome to all our broadcast partners, including Fox Sports over there in Australia, joining us for the first day of competition here at the Quicksilver Pro Stop 9 on the Samsung Galaxy Championship Tour. Big heat in the lineup at the moment. Dane Reynolds up against Owen Wright, Sebastian Zietz, and the wildcard Reynolds putting an 8.77 on the board early on. Owen Wright, he's counting on a 1.33, and we're yet to see Sebastian Zietz take off on a ride. Big crowd filling in here for the first day of competition, Ross, and pretty challenging for the surfers, even though it looks really clean and fun out there. Just being in the right place at the right time in France is really difficult.
It's so tricky. It's just ever changing. The tides are big. There's 14 feet of tide out here, so huge swings between low and high. And as we mentioned, the swell was huge yesterday. It was about double this size, and it's changed to these sandbars. As we see Seabass getting on the board there, tucking in nice and late. Wow, nice barrel there for Sebastian Zietz. And then also a nice little roundhouse to boot, just to combo it up a bit. So I'm thinking that might even be a little bit better than Dane's.
We're waiting on the numbers to come through. Here's the replay from the water. Just looking so energised at the moment, Sebastian Zietz. I think it's dawned on him, the position he's in on the ratings and the kind of surfing he's going to need to do against some of these top seeds in the early rounds if he's going to reclaim a spot in the Championship Tour in 2016.
And he knows where he's at. He's not playing it too risky in terms of doing a QS. He's started, he kicked himself over to that tour as well, just in case. So I like the fact that, he's playing both cards, but he'd like to get it done here on the CT.
Well, up again is Dane Reynolds, an 8.77 on his first wave. Getting barrel once again here in his first effort at the Quicksilver Pro. Just over 21 minutes remaining. And still waiting on Sebastian Zietz score to lock in. Dane Reynolds has one on the way as well. Here's the replay of Dane's. Good size wave.
Great technique. We saw that from Sebastian in the wave prior too. I love how they can these surfers are so comfortable with late drops. They tuck their arm in the wall and just sort of pick the nose as they're dropping in with the lip chasing behind them. It's a beautiful way to totally capitalize on the barrel.
And here is Owen Wright. Big vertical snap to get started. Again, just attacks the lip, driving off the bottom for a third maneuver. And just stringing together some big, powerful moves. Dane Reynolds, I'm expecting a decent score for him, really wrestling the foam ball on his second wave.
That's going to be interesting, Ronnie, because we've seen pretty much all the scores being thrown for barrels. That was 3 beautiful turns.
Massive turns. Just over 20 minutes remaining. Let's get caught up with Julian Wilson, who dominated the second heat of round 1. He's with Pete Mel.
Yeah, thanks, Ronnie. So Julian, 9.5 and 9.3. You were watching the conditions this morning. Kind of hard to see up the bank there when you're kind of sitting there for your warm-up. But just run us through how it went for you out there.
Yeah, I just wanted to catch waves and try and get into a bit of a rhythm. I caught 2 waves, got a 5, got a score on the board, and then got into a really good rhythm with the sets and got two good waves back to back. My first wave was good, and then I paddled back out and I was pretty far down the beach and I felt like I wasn't quite in the spot and it would take like a while to paddle up, so I decided to paddle in, get the jet ski, get dropped off, and then got dropped off straight into the other one. So I was in a good rhythm with the ocean and yeah, it was really fun out there.
And you've been coming off 2 kind of poor results, 2 13ths. You know, you're in that title race. What did you do to turn that around?
Just got to keep plugging away. I just want to have a really consistent year. 2 13ths obviously never feels good, no matter what position you're in. But yeah, there's a lot left to go in the year, and just want to put in good performances and have a consistent year and see it out.
And then big news. You popped the question there to Ashley, your longtime girlfriend.
Yeah, that's really big news. It's super exciting in the city of love. Yeah, really, really happy and really happy that she said yes. And yeah, it's all good.
I wouldn't doubt that you wouldn't have said yes. So congratulations on that, and a good job in that heat.
Thank you, Peter. Julian Wilson charging on through directly to round number 3, and out in the lineup now, an all-time matchup, maybe the best of the first round. Dane Reynolds, Sebastian Zietz and Owen Wright, each of them getting some pretty good scores on the board too. Dane Reynolds out in front early on with an 8.77. Sebastian Zietz answered beautifully with a 7.83. Owen Wright's just put his best wave on the board. A couple of big backhand snaps earned him a 6.67. And Dane has put another excellent score on the board, an 8.23, dominating this heat at this point in time.
Yeah, so extra point there from Dane. I was kind of thinking Seabass's wave was going to match his, maybe even be better, but I think that extra girth, it was a pretty hollow. That was the difference between Dane and Seabass's waves. Dane's was a lot thicker, and that extra girth, the judges gave him the nod at the whole, an extra point.
17 and a half minutes to go. Always so much talk about Dane and his go for broke surfing, but his barrel riding is kind of underrated in a way.
Yeah. There's some parallels there for me personally with Julian. Whenever I think of Julian, I always think of this beautiful big aerial surfing above the lip. But Dane, same, just like Julian, amazing in the barrel. And here's the 3 knives for Owen Wright, 6.67. So again, we were curious where this number would float for the judges, being that there's so much concentration right now on tube riding. And as it should be, there's a lot of barrels on offer right now, so they want to see you get piped.
Loving that backhand flow from Owen Wright. Maybe a little repetitive for the judges, as you can see there. They love the variety of manoeuvres.
Yeah, and the Owen's wave, their combination of major maneuvers, he had 3 of them. And it's here's the cool thing about France right now, these beach breaks. It's not only about barrels. You can string together some great turns. That was really good surfing from Owen, so I'm a little surprised it was as low as a 6.67.
We can see the breakdown of rides there. Dane Reynolds already hanging on to 2 excellent scores. Wave selection impeccable. Positioning under the lip at this point in time is great, and the judges love to see you get involved with the foam ball. That's as critical as you can get behind the curtain. And here he goes once again, a late drop, pulls in. This one looks like it's going to clamp. 16 minutes to go.
So a ton of time left, and that's the beauty of surfing beach breaks. You can get a couple of waves within 3 or 4 minutes. You don't need this long paddle back out like a Bell's or a J-Bay where it takes an eternity to get back out to the peak. Out here, especially with jet ski assist, you can get a couple of scores. And so basically what that means, as we see Dane go up and over the falls inside the pit there, you got to keep your head high. If you're having a bad heat the first 10-15 minutes, don't get down on yourself, because it doesn't take much time to get back.
Talk to us about the challenges competing here in France. Like we mentioned before, this is home to some of the best beach breaks in the world, but even someone like Kelly Slater's struggled to stand on top of the podium at the end of the event here in France each year.
I think, we've talked about it a lot. You just have to be flexible with the conditions. And then the other thing is, and this also is in relation to the time of the year. We've been on the road for months and months now, so you can get a bit foggy. So you have to really mentally stay sharp. And so not only does that mean you have to stay sharp in terms of being flexible with the conditions, but you have to be psyched. Let's face it, at this many months into the tour, sometimes you can get complacent. So the guys that stay really fresh, energetic, and stay positive, they have an advantage.
Well, just over 14 and a half minutes to go, and the situation is solid for Dane Reynolds. Sebastian Zietz trying to get himself back into it, and he fades on this one, trying to set up the tube. Isn't going to find the cover. He gets out of there. was looking for a pretty decent number to get himself up into the lead, a 9.17. Using priority with that ride. So a bit of a mistake there for Sebastian Zietz, but plenty of time. Each of these competitors, after the victory in the first round, that will see them directly through to round 3. A second or third place means you'll be fighting your way through that dreaded second round.
Yeah, don't want to go there, especially for someone like Sebastian Zietz, who's already sitting at 2,200 ratings. You only get 500 points if you finish 25th, and you know, you more than double your points if you break into that third round. So it's huge. You don't want to go into that second round.
Well, when it comes to requalification too, you're keeping such a close eye on those guys who are just above you inside the qualification mark, and well, already Sebastian's got to start looking at the likes of, say, Jadson Andre, who's going to have to fight through the second round. If he can get himself directly into round 3, it's just that bit of a mental boost, a little bit of a confidence booster, and a chance at overtaking someone above you on the ratings.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And I was just taking a quick glance at it. You know, it is more than triple your points if you make that one heat you're just talking about. So if you can win this one, skip the second round, again, only 500 points if you get 25th, where if you get 13th place, you get 1,750. So, you know, for these guys at the back end of the ratings, you know, right around that 22 mark, that's a big difference. You know, it's not about just the world title out here on tour. There's guys fighting for their career.
Well, there is just under 13 minutes remaining. Owen Wright finds himself back in third position, chasing a decent number to get into the lead. Sebastian Zietz in second. Dane Reynolds leads heat 3 of round 1. We'll be back right after this. Welcome back to the Quicksilver Pro. Stop 9 on the Samsung Galaxy Championship Tour. The world title race intensifying. One of the front runners on the Jeep leaderboard is out in the lineup right now. Owen Wright in 4th position finds himself chasing a 2-wave total of 17.01 to get into the lead with just over 14 minutes to go. This one being led by Dane Reynolds, the wild card, who is always a chance at causing huge upsets. He's already done some damage this year. Over there in Fiji, got himself a 9th place finish. Relegated some of the title front runners to early round losses, and here he is just going for broke and lands a frontside air. Can't ride out of the foam, but you can see how capable he is of planning such manoeuvres.
Yeah, Dane Reynolds hasn't lost much, has he? You know, he has been so popular for a long time now. Creating some of the best video parts we've ever seen, and great highlights competitively as well. But watch this, nice little tap, clean air reverse all the way around, pretty much a full rotation there, but just couldn't get that projection in front of the whitewash. It was a little too powdery as he landed. It didn't give him that bounce back he needed to push him back out in front to, you know, give the judges the clear answer that it was a completion. So they won't give him much points for that.
I just love that it's a sizey wave and he just attacks it the way he does, as we see Owen now grabbing rail. Can't find the exit, but just back to Dane. Just drop to the bottom. So much power in that first turn, but just attacking the oncoming section, not holding back one bit.
He's so aggressive. That's what's so fun watching Dane surf. He does not hold back. He never patty cakes a wave. He doesn't just go for a 7.5. He surfs the wave for whatever it's worth at a maximum speed. If he has a big section come at him, he'll let it rip.
Well, wildcards have the opportunity to hang on to their points this year. one of the big changes, the evolutions in professional surfing. But so far, no one's really been able to take the opportunity and get themselves in a position to qualify. Dane, he's back in 36th position on the ratings.
Is this his fourth event?
Fourth event this year. He's at a 25th or 13th. And I mentioned that 9th place finish over in Fiji. But he always just gives you some highlight moments. Let's see if he can go on with it and get himself a finals finish here.
Stranger things have happened. I mean, could you imagine if Dane make the finals, maybe even get the win here in France? It's very possible. He's made the finals here before. You never know. He could bump up to a position where he could actually get a seed next year.
Well, prior to this contest, he's sitting on 6,250 points. A win is 10,000 points, and just inside the qualification mark, inside the top 22, there's surfers sitting on 15,000 points. So Dane is definitely an opportunity at getting it done. But here we go, Sebastian Zietz up, looking for the lead here with this ride. Surfing so well at the moment. That last section, very hard to read. Wasn't able to complete the turn.
Great surfing right there from Seabass. Really good tube ride, and then maybe the best carve we've seen so far today, certainly on the forehand. So a combination of some maneuvers there, variety. I think for sure that's got to be better than a 7.83, so in the mix. He might not get all the score he needs right now, but he's chipping away.
14 minutes to go. You look at events and you try and pick your favourites. This is such a hard contest because you're going to get these days on the Outer Bank where it's big and barreling, and then you're going to get really fun inside days on the shore break sandbar where guys like Felipe and Gabriel are going to make it really difficult for everyone. Do you have a pick as we see the replay of Sebastian's wave for who might take this contest out?
Ooh, pretty deep right there for Sebastian, so judges will take note of that. And it was a throaty wave too. Remember, Dane Reynolds got that 8.77, and the real difference was that wave had a lot of girth. So same thing. Look how thick this thing is, and watch the foam ball right there under his board. You touched on that earlier, Ronnie. That signifies that he was pretty much as deep as he could get for a split second on that barrel, and then a beautiful carve. So this should be for sure excellent.
Just love the style from the outset. Standing tall for a moment as we see that Jeep leaderboard. Sebastian Zietz in equal 22nd position at this stage of the game.
And Seabass rated, I believe, 32nd on the QS, so he's got some work there as well. But guys like Sebastian Zietz are notorious for heading over to the Triple Crown and grabbing those scores, those points they need to qualify.
A little earlier on, I asked you who your tip might be. Who's the person that, in your opinion at the moment, based on current form, could kind of get the job done, whether it's outer bank, inside bank?
Well, I'm going to jump on your bandwagon. I'm going to bet you said it this morning in the morning show, Gabriel Medina. And I think Gabriel Medina, the reason why he's so deadly in places like France where, the conditions are always changing, he's very crafty. He never just sits there and waits for that one perfect wave. He'll manufacture scores. Mick Fanning's also awesome at doing that. Very just uneasy. They don't sit there and drop anchor and wait for a set wave. They're constantly... those guys know where they are in the heat. They know if a 6.5 is going to actually be worth their time, or if they have to scale back and wait for an excellent score. So I like guys that are very active mentally and have a cognitive approach to the heats. They have an advantage.
Well, Medina is coming up in heat number 7. Has a tough assignment up against Matt Wilkinson and Dusty Payne. Dusty, another one of those surfers chasing a huge result to shore up a spot on the CT for next season. But right now, just over 5 minutes to go. Score through for Sebastian Zietz. His last ride was an 8.07. He needs an 8.93 to get into the lead. Let's check out the recap of what's unfolded so far.
Right there, I believe that's Dane's first wave. Nice little layback snap too. That was an 8.77, so a massive score for that. And then the backup score I actually liked a little better, but he got an 8.23. Rode the foam ball there, and it kind of had a doggy door exit. So a quick little bang bang effort there from Dane Reynolds right out the gate. Awesome backside surfing here from Owen Wright. Smooth snaps. I thought that was excellent surfing, but he just grabbed a decent score, 6.67, and he's been lost out there. He hasn't really been in rhythm. Seabass and Dane have kind of sucked all the energy out of the ocean. They've grabbed the best waves in his heat. Really styly barrel there for Sebastian Zietz into a really clean hook. 3 maneuvers and just the 8.07. So the judges really happy with the 8.77 and 8.23, giving Dane a pretty clean lead right now.
Just over 4 minutes to go. Conditions just holding him beautifully at this point in time. Barrels on offer. Seems to be a big focus for the judges in this point in time. I'm sure some of the competitors in those upcoming heats are going to be watching that closely. But there'll be plenty of Dane Reynolds fans out there loving just how on point he looks. He looks really focused, picking good waves at different times throughout this year when he's had the opportunity as a wild card. He's looked a little vulnerable, but not the case today on the first day of competition at the Quicksilver Pro.
I agree. He looks energized. You know, sometimes it's visible that Dane is kind of out there just chilling. He's definitely is switched on. You know, it takes a lot of effort to kind of paddle around and hound that sandbar to find the good waves.
Just 3.5 minutes to go now. And I guess one of the great things about this location for the competitors, Ross, is that it's such a long stretch. There is other sandbars down the line that are breaking. It's not like Chopu where there's really only that one wave that you can warm up on, and it's almost dangerous to go somewhere else surfing in Tahiti because there's nothing like Chopes. Whereas here you can find yourself a sandbar, you can get familiar with your equipment, you can get really warmed up for your heats.
That's true, you can. And you know, yesterday, speaking of warming up, it was a bit tough for all the guys. You know, it was onshore, stormy, it was huge out here. It was almost twice the size you're seeing on your screen today. So, you know, they're out there this morning pretty much for the first time in Europe going, okay, it's game on.
You have the very tough assignment of giving people tips on their fantasy surfing teams before each event. Generally, you put those tips up a couple of weeks out from the contest starting. It must be so hard committing to those tips a long way out when you don't see the form of the surfers in the free surfing sessions. You've already made a change to your fantasy suggestions for this contest.
I did. I initially was just pegging Owen Wright as the guy of the event. As you mentioned, I love the way he's been surfing. The form has been amazing all year long from Owen, but someone like Gabriel, you know, who is also in Tier A, you can only pick 2 surfers in Tier A. You know, he is very switched on. He seems ultra focused. Also, you have to go with gut feeling, and momentum's definitely been on Gabriel's side for the last couple of events. He's got that mojo. He's he's going to win an event before the year's over.
You made that suggestion this morning, and at that point, Gabriel only had 9% of the fantasy surfing audience following him in the event. We'll see if those numbers change overnight. But there's 1.5 minutes remaining in this heat. And at this stage of the game, Owen Wright doesn't look like he's going to get through directly to the third round. He's going to have to fight his way through round number 2. Sebastian Zietz has an opportunity. He needs an 8.93 with 1 minute and 20 seconds to go to overcome Dane Reynolds, who really hasn't looked back since posting 2 excellent scores at the very start of this heat, an 8.77 and an 8.23.
Pretty amazing. If you could, I know we're just kind of daydreaming here, but if Dane somehow made the finals, took out of this event, that'd be crazy for him at this point in his life and his career. You know, it'd just be, you know, a dream come true for him.
Yeah, it'd be a tough decision. Just committing to the championship tour after having a baby recently, and it'd be a really tough call, I'd say.
Yeah, it would. And even just that accomplishment on its own, before he made the decision of committing to the tour in 2016, could you imagine, just getting that win for him, the emotion that would be pulled out of him.
And
never
course,
winning a CT.
$100,000 US going to a charity in South Africa too, already committing to giving his prize money away from this contest. 25 seconds to go, looking good for Dane Reynolds here. Sebastian Zietz still chasing that 8.93. Owen Wright out of this one. Let's see if there's any set waves approaching the lineup in the final stages. It's Dane with priority, so he can be smart, get a little selective out there, keep Sebastian Zietz off the best wave. This one is counting down. Sebastian Zietz isn't going to get an opportunity by the looks of things. Dane Reynolds, the wild card, marching on through to round number 3, looking super sharp from the outset here. We're going to go to a break. When we come back, another big heat. Felipe Toledo, Adam Melling and Thomas Hermes. Stay with us. Thanks for joining us for the first day of competition here at the Quicksilver Pro France. We have just seen Dane Reynolds, the wild card, with a healthy heat score total, moving directly through to round 3 with a win over Sebastian Zietz and Owen Wright. 17 points total. And Sebastian Zietz also putting together a pretty decent number of 15.9. Now we're going to welcome heat number 4 of round 1 to the water. Felipe Toledo, who's been on a mad run in 2015 up against Adam Melling, and one of the replacements here, injury replacements, Thomas Hermes of Brazil. Should be a good little fight, but early on we were reviewing this heat, and with this size in the lineup, Ross Williams, you felt that Adam Melling was the favourite going into this battle.
Yeah, I mean, obviously Felipe Toledo has been on fire this year, but you know, his big weapon comes from the giant air reverse, that pop that he gets with ease and the smaller stuff. Definitely no slouch when the waves are hollow like this. You know, I think Felipe's probably, you know, to be honest, underrated in these kind of waves. But Adam Melling, he's proven, you know, he's, and especially this year, wouldn't you think, Ronnie? I think he's improved in hollow stuff. His tube riding, he just looks a little more savvy this year.
Definitely looking sharp. Lost his major sponsor, Adam Melling, at the end of last year, so really the prize money becomes a major factor. You want to chase down those big results in order to get that prize money, help fund your year, make it a little bit more comfortable by winning some big heats.
Yeah, for sure. And that's, you know, that can't hurt in terms of motivation, because it just becomes that much more urgent for him. So you never know. It could be a blessing in disguise.
Thomas Hermes, he's had a couple of opportunities this year to compete. As we see Melling on the replay here, getting barreled, but just locked in. Couldn't find the exit.
Yeah, he was totally locked in. Nice drop there from Adam. Super hollow wave, so it must have been fun for a couple of seconds, but no exit.
Well, Thomas Hermes, he gets into this contest as an injury replacement. He was the first surfer on the QS not to qualify last season. He finished in 17th, and it was Ricardo Christie just one spot above him who made the grade. And as a result, Thomas ends up being one of the first replacements. He hasn't had too much luck though with his opportunities on the championship tour in 2015. He surfed at Jeffreys Bay, a 25th place there. Trestles also fell out of the draw in the second round. So Thomas is looking to turn it all around here.
I like the way Thomas surfs. Really smooth. Kind of reminds me of Fabio Gouveia, if you remember him back in the 90s. He's got that really nice, smooth, compact style. So great foundation for him. He's also a pretty crafty tube rider. But that, sure, you know, that really did sting, being that close to graduating to the CT ranks. That's, again, what we talked about. When you come to the Triple Crown, a lot of those guys that are on the CT that need to back themselves up, they're really tough to beat. They know how to grab those big results.
Well, just the one wave ridden so far, it was a 1.6, but taking off now, Felipe Toledo under the lip, doesn't make the drop.
You can see that backwash right there, hit that wave, and that is really tricky out there. It's kind of causing havoc. There's that shallow bank, and it kind of creates that little suck that goes back out, and a pretty solid backwash out there. So it's wonky. That makes the barrels kind of breathe open and clamp shut. So it's something to think about when you're in the barrel.
What's your favorite Felipe moment this year?
I think the Gold Coast. That was probably his best event. That's where he produced, you know, the craziest highlights. Obviously, he surfed amazing in Rio, punting some huge airs, but the Gold Coast was another level.
I just loved how much he improved his rail surfing through the off season. It was so noticeable in that first event. He used it to help claim that victory. He may not have even had to have gone to the air in the final the way he was surfing on the open face. It looks so sharp. But he's had some trip-ups along the way this season, and it's just held him back from the top spot on the Championship Tour ratings. He's still so young, has a lot of room for growth. I always like thinking about those title front runners, the surfers that are at the top end, and who has room for improvement. You'd be thinking Mick Fanning. Well, he's probably at peak performance now. Does he have much room to grow and improve at certain locations? Maybe not. Someone like Felipe Toledo, on the other hand, He's so young. He's got so much room to grow in these heavier kind of conditions. You know, he's already the best in the business when it comes to right-handers in the 4-foot range. So he's going to be so deadly in years to come.
I think for Felipe Toledo, if he's going to try to take a page out of Mick Fanning's book, you know, over the years, Mick has bettered his surfing in hollow waves. Places like Chopu and Pipe, that's not the first name on your list. You don't say, oh, Mick Fanning, for sure he's going to win Pipeline. In fact, he never has. But he's solid, and that's the difference. And that's why Mick Fanning has won a few world titles, because he can grab a decent result there. And for Felipe, if he's going to get a world title, he has to do the same. He doesn't have to dominate Pipe and Chopu, but he has to be solid, where he can grab, you know, 9th place finishes, 5th place finishes, and then go ahead and do his thing in the point breaks.
Well, that was the year that it all turned around for Mick, when he really started going to those locations where he was a little bit weaker, like Tahiti, and really concentrating on him lifting his game in those waves. That's when it all came together. 2007, he got a 2nd place finish in Tahiti. He also made the final in Chile, in Arica, and he looked really, really comfortable in the barrel. Yeah. Before that, you know, we knew he was a good frontside barrel rider, but on the backhand he had struggled, but always a threat now when it's tubing.
And there's multiple examples of that same scenario. Joel Parkinson, another guy. You think of Joel, you think of Bells, you think of Jay Bay, but he's solid in Fiji. He's solid at Pipe, and so you don't have to be perfect at every single surf spot, but you got to be well-rounded. So that's the question at hand for Felipe. Everyone knows it. He knows it, but he is such a grommet. He's really young. He has got a ton of time on his side. And
really is starting to, I think, prove people wrong at some of those locations. Quarterfinal at Pipeline last year. Did pretty well in Tahiti this year. I'd say a 9th place finish over there is, you know, a feather in the cap almost.
Totally.
Well, there is 22 minutes and 45 seconds remaining. No major scores locked in just yet. Felipe, he had a fall under the lip, a 0.5, a throwaway score. Adam Melling had a 1.6. 22 and a half minutes to go. Thomas Hermes hasn't taken a ride yet. You got out there in the lineup yesterday, Ross. Water temperature, what are we looking at?
Yeah, it's not bad. It's really comfortable. Just a normal full suit, 2 millimeters is fine. It's right around the low to mid 60s, probably more like low 60s in Fahrenheit. So it's comfortable in the water there. It's not too cold.
22 minutes to go. We have a rider having a look at this one in the blue. It's Adam Melling, and again he locks into a closeout, and it's going to be another throwaway score while we wait for some decent waves to roll in. Let's check in with the winner of the last heat, Dane Reynolds, the wild card with Pete Mel.
Yeah, thanks, Ronnie. Dane Reynolds, always a pleasure to have you in a jersey. You know, always looking inspired. This is your 4th event this year, and is this something that you feel inspired when you're throwing on a jersey out there? Because it sure looks like it.
I guess I'm just inspired to surf good, you know, do my best, and good waves make it exciting. You want to go out there and you want to get a barrel, or, you know, I think it's just the performance that excites me. I don't know. I guess just surfing excites me. I psych on surfing, and it's cool to be able to do it without a whole lot of people battling for your waves, and a little bit of order with the priority stuff, and just, yeah.
And tell me about the conditions out there. I know that it was a little bit challenging to find those quality ones.
It wasn't for me. I was tripping out going down there, because a lot of the time you're at the contest area and you know, all right, the good ones are straight out or to the left or whatever, and you go out there and you look at the contest area and you can kind of gauge where you're at. But it's down the beach, so I had no idea, and we were sitting here waiting for the car with like a minute left in the heat, and we just jammed down there and got out, and Owen had been out for a while, and I thought that he'd probably be pretty eggy about it, because they dropped us off just behind him on the peak, which sucks. But I mean, from our perspective, like, what are you going to do? I'm not going to like paddle to the shoulder and let him get the first one or something. And we kind of were just paddling around. I had no idea what was going to come in, and then the first one came right to me, and just have to ride them when they come in when it's barrels, you know.
And you've made an announcement that you're going to be giving your prize money to Surfers Not Street Children. Tell us a little bit about that foundation.
They take street children in Durban, and they provide mentorship and education all through surfing. And I had a friend that visited them earlier this year and really suggested it. I just wanted to come here and surf on somebody's behalf. Like, that kind of felt like it would be a good motivation, for the prize money to go to a good cause. I've great sponsorship money, and I just feel like somebody else that needs it more could benefit from it, and I just thought it'd be fun to surf on someone else's behalf. And I asked a lot of friends. I just felt like it needed to be a surfing-oriented thing, and that they could understand that I'm surfing for them. And I just thought it would be cool. My friend visited him earlier this year, and I asked some South African friends, and everyone had really good things to say about it, and it seemed like a really good cause.
Absolutely awesome. Thanks, Dane, and appreciate that. The fans out there and surfers, not street children.
Thank you, Pete. Yeah, it's cool. I think at times Dane has struggled for motivation for competition. And like he said, yes, it's a good cause, but it's also giving him a real purpose when he pulls the jersey on and heads out there for a heat. You could see it in that battle, that first round effort. 2 excellent scores on his first 2 waves and an easy win.
Well, what's so intriguing, being a fan and watching Dane in a jersey, it's not natural for him. He's always struggled with confidence. He's so critical on his own surfing, which is really strange because he's one of the best surfers ever to live. But it makes you pull for him because he's overly humble. And so when he gets a win, you can't help but to cheer for him.
Well, he's through to the 3rd round, and out in the lineup now we've got 3 surfers fighting it out for another spot in round 3. But no decent scores locked in just yet. These guys are struggling to find their place in the lineup. And it could just be that little change in the tide, those subtle changes, just causing havoc at the moment for these competitors.
Yeah, big stretch of beach here from where we're sitting all the way up to where the judges are. A few hundred yards at least, maybe 500 yards. So a lot of sand moving, some sweep kind of from north to south. And it will get grumpy at times. The tide changes and the waves start breaking in different parts of the sandbar.
Some magic moments here at the Quiksilver Pro over the years. This CT competition, it's been run down at La Gravière in huge conditions. That was probably my favourite year, the year that Bruce and Andy surfed the final against one another. What about you, Ross? What's the standout moment for you?
I wasn't here that year that Andy and Bruce made the finals together, but from all the stories I've heard, it was one of the best years ever in terms of the surf, the brothers making the finals together, charging. The waves were big and hollow. So I think for sure on record, that's probably the best year ever for a competition out here. But over the years, I've had some great sentimental favorites. Just watching Tom Kern getting his wins out here. Even the small events, the years we got skunked for swell, it's always just fun. In years past, it used to be here in the summer, but when they made the switch to fall, that's when the surf really started showing its teeth.
Well, another fantastic year was more recent. It was when Gabriel Medina and Julian Wilson surfed, I think probably the best high-performance final we've ever seen. Just throwing down huge airs, variations of aerials. Medina was getting upside down with his air reverses. Julian was doing varials, and it was all on. And you kind of assumed from that point on that you'd seen a major shift in performance here in France, but because the conditions are always so different, you're not always going to see that high performance stuff. And today might be one of those days where we don't really see too many airs. Yeah. It's going to be more about that big, powerful rail game and the tube riding. That's
exactly true, for sure. And that's why we love coming to France. We talked about it, how it's tricky here. You have to really be flexible with the conditions, and that's what's on order today. There are some big old tubes out there. And so we don't want to see guys on the double-ups on the inside punting little airs. It's all about, those late knifey drops and getting piped.
Equipment-wise, a tough event for the surfers to pack for?
I think so. You don't need any big boards like you'd bring to the North Shore, but you definitely need a step up.
Well, here we go. This is Felipe Toledo. He's got a bit of open face to work with. Razor sharp first turn. Climbs up on the roof as the wave shuts down and lets go of a nice tail drop floater.
So there you go. Smart from Felipe. It's been really tough going for the last 15 minutes. We've seen in the last couple of heats no major scores for maneuvers, but I think that Felipe's smart there, picking up on the fact that, hey, someone's got to do something here. This heat's at ground zero.
Almost at the halfway mark and no major scores locked in. Felipe's going to have the best number in a moment. 15 minutes to go.
So there's that flexibility we were talking about, Ronnie. You have to adjust. Felipe picking up on the fact that no one's really found that crazy barrel, so you never know. You could win a heat with some maneuvers, maybe even a couple of fives. Just get busy. I like that.
Felipe Toledo, 2 CT wins. Hadn't had a CT victory prior to 2015. Got a pretty good strike rate once he gets to that last heat.
Yeah.
And his heat score totals in both finals.
Crazy town.
Monster.
I mean, that performance he put on in the Gold Coast and in Rio were just, he was untouchable. And here's the quick maneuvers too, bang, bang. Nice little tail drop float there for Felipe. I think the judges will keep it pretty modest, but again, I like the fact that he's picking up on a tempo of the heat. It's a low-scoring affair so far, so get busy.
Not a massive wave, but you can just see there's a comfort factor once he gets on a wave of that size. Early on, we saw him fall under the lip of a bigger set. He just doesn't make mistakes once he gets on one of those 4-footers. He just looks so comfortable. Well, just under 14 minutes to go. Let's get caught up on what's unfolded in the first few heats of the morning with Chelsea Kennel and Rosie Hodge.
Thanks so much, Ronnie. Yeah, Rosie, we started the morning by going on hold for a little bit so that we could move 500 meters up the beach to a place called The Guardian, and I think that's been a really smart move because we've had some incredible action so far.
Definitely. I mean, you just look at this morning and the energy that the free surfers were coming in with. There's been, peaks up and down the beach, firing barrels everywhere, so they really had to pinpoint that bank. That was the most consistent, good move to put it up there on the beach and just really give the guys the best opportunity to find the best waves on this bank.
And what a way to start the morning with Brett Simpson, Kelly Slater, and Jadson Andre in heat number 1.
This was such a cracker heat. I mean, we just saw these guys really getting ready to do battle, and it was kind of like a scramble to get them out there. And Brett Simpson really taking command, of his position right now. He needs to qualify. He needs some big results. And, he likes these kind of positions where the pressure's on and he kind of produces those results. And making it through and beating the champion was kind of a tough situation.
Not easy to go up against Kelly Slater this early in the morning, but so nice to be able to skip that round 2 situation.
Definitely, that is not where you want to find yourself. But heat 2 was the same thing. I mean, fireworks the whole way through.
Yeah, no kidding, especially from Julian Wilson. I mean, maybe he's riding some of that engagement momentum, if that's even a thing. He just got engaged in Paris, and now he will also be skipping round 2 with a pair of 9s.
Exactly. I mean, France will definitely hold a special place for him in his heart, and you can just see the performance that he was putting on, threading through these beautiful barrels and just coming out with such ease and then laying it down. Really just, you can see the excitement in the surfers. The waves are absolutely pumping this morning.
And then moving on into Heat 3, we had Owen Wright, Sebastian Zietz, and Dane Reynolds. Dane was carrying on that same momentum, dropping 8s.
Exactly. I mean, you see Dane Reynolds as a wild card in this event, and you know what he's capable of, making finals in prior years. And, just Quicksilver giving him this wild card, and he's just getting amped on surfing and on these conditions.
Such an important part of this year, and the guys are already really bringing it. It makes you really excited to see what the rest of the event could have for us and the rest of the year with so much on the line.
Exactly. I mean, Sebastian Zietz was also another standout in this heat. These guys are just bringing all this energy right now. It's really coming down to that crucial part of the year where you're looking at qualification, you're looking at the world title, you're looking at your own personal goals. People want to make it into the top 10, the top 5, and really put their name in the hat for the race to, achieve what they've set out for themselves this year.
And Ronnie, I just wanted to ask you guys, you've been watching the heats all morning. Has there been a highlight for you so far?
Plenty of highlights so far. I think for me, just seeing Dane Reynolds come out and I think looks so comfortable with that jersey on and just looking really focused. I think he really does want to claim some solid prize money for that foundation that he's committed his effort to here in France. Hopefully he can go on with it.
I think that's his comfort zone too, if that makes sense. Maybe pushing away some of that energy, some of that attention. Going, I'm going to do it for someone else. That's what makes him kind of compete better.
Okay, well, at the moment we've got Adam Melling up, slicing off the top. Almost finds some cover there as he moves through to the inside now. And just drifts the tail on the final move. 10.5 minutes to go. Felipe Toledo got a 5 for his effort on a medium-sized wave. We'll see if Melling can get himself into the lead with that ride.
There you go. I think Adam Melling picking up on that same page, taking a page out of Felipe's book. Get busy now because there's those barrels have gone missing. Kind of pulled a Houdini. So you just saw that highlight reel from Julian, a couple of 9s. Haven't seen much of that in the last 15 minutes, so that's what makes these guys so good. They have to just manufacture their own scores, and Adam, tricky backwash there, but he dealt with it.
Well, this is Thomas Hermes now. He finds a bit of cover. He's going to get the exit too. Drives up onto the open face now and really puts it on the back foot. Let's go of a nice carve. Bit of an awkward finish there, but he rides out of that last manoeuvre. Just under 10 minutes to go. Felipe picked off the left-hander, calling for the ski now.
It might be the best score so far in this heat from Tomas Hermes from Brazil. Ronnie, he got a little barrel and then a clean layback hack. This is what we missed from Felipe on the left-hander. Tail release snap there. Always has flair, doesn't he? He just will never go to a stock standard turn. He has to throw some spice on it. So 2 pretty big maneuvers there. So, these guys, I think they definitely have learned their lesson here in the last 15, 20 minutes. They know that it's gotten a little more slim pickings. Adam Melling, this was a good wave as well. Stayed really busy. He dealt with some crazy backwash here. Watch as he has great timing, though. Little bobble there. He flicks the tail right before that backwash hit. Pretty aggressive move there, so we'll see how high the judges go with that. I liked it.
Well, Felipe's left might just keep him in the lead, but it's going to be a really close finish as we get down to the final 8.5 minutes of this heat. Looking forward to some big matchups. Of course, coming up next, we're going to see Adriano de Souza, who's in second spot on the Jeep leaderboard at this stage of the game, and Keanu Singh will be in that clash as well. Mick Fanning in heat number 6 up against Michel Perez and Maxime Husseneau. It's great seeing a couple of fresh names in the draw of a CT event, and already one of the wild cards doing some damage. Dane Reynolds moving through.
A handful, isn't there? With all the replacements. So you're right, it is cool to get a little preview. Guys like Maxime Husseneau, who is just a QS warrior. He's going to be able to dip his toes into the CT event. Kyle Abelli, who's pretty much already solidified himself on a CT tour. He is a ripper as well, so we'll be seeing him in the next heat.
Well, just over 7.5 minutes remaining. Felipe Toledo out in front, waiting on scores for Adam Melling and Thomas Hermes. We'll be back right after the break. Six and a half minutes remaining in heat 4 of round 1. Felipe Toledo holding on to a narrow lead at this stage. He has a 5 and a 4.93 for a heat score total of 9.93. Adam Melling, he is in third spot at this stage, chasing just a 5.16 to jump up into the lead. Thomas Hermes, he has the highest score of the heat so far, a 6.5. He needs a 3.43 to jump into the lead with 6 minutes to go. Smaller wave approaching the line up here. No one could get into it.
So Tomas just snuck in a little wave there, and that's the difference between everyone else in his heat. He got a little cover time there. So I know it's not amazing, but it was a nice 2, but that snap right there put some icing on a cake. And then he was able to finish the wave off. So 2, maybe 2.5 maneuvers there, a little barrel, 6.5. That's the best score.
5.5 minutes to go. A 3.43, not a huge number, but we've seen it in the past here in France. Guys chasing very low scores in order to get themselves a heat win, and you just stalk the lineup here, and sometimes you cannot buy a wave.
Yeah, it can be so cruel. And so that was a nice little preview too. We talked about the style that Tomas Hermes has. I love that little layback jam he threw in there after that barrel. He's a bit old school. I love the fact that he's not just your stock standard grommet that goes for the air reverse. He has a great foundation there. He likes to mix it up with his style.
He's had a bit of a tough year on the QS too, so enjoying this opportunity to collect some points, get some prize money, and build some confidence before no doubt launching another campaign on the QS in 2016.
Yeah, you never know where you're going to spark that extra confidence you need. At this level, you know, everyone's so tough to beat, so you need that extra swagger to get you through sometimes.
It's been a pretty decent event for wildcards in the past too. We talked about Dane Reynolds, the fact that he finished runner-up as a wildcard in this contest. Jeremy Flores is a youngster. He took down some big names in this event before he graduated to the elite ranks. And Patrick Bevan, I remember him going on a mission into the quarterfinals. I think it was 2009. So there has been some pretty solid runs from these wildcard competitors. But here we go, Adam Melling just getting clipped by the lip. Couldn't get compact enough to stay inside that barrel. 4 minutes to go.
So this is where priority becomes very crucial here. In the last 4 minutes, Felipe has priority and he has control of the heat, so he can really kind of manipulate the water of the lineup. And right now he's holding on to a 5 and a 4.93. That wave right there, the little rock and roll floater. I know it's nothing crazy, but it's pushed him into the lead, a pair of 5s. And Adam Melling, his best score, a 4.7 on this really tricky wave. A lot of backwash, but I love that tail release right there, Ronnie. So just adding some zest to that wave, you know, it's kept him alive. And we talked about this 6.5 right here. Here's a steezy layback. Yes, that was really cool from Tomas. Again, though, just a 6.5, so he is scrambling. As you mentioned, he's scouring the soundbar looking for just a 3.4.
This is Felipe's second best ride, a 4.93. Helped him hang on to that lead. Let go of a couple of nice big backhand snaps before the wave faded out on the inside. Just under 3 minutes remaining in this heat. Felipe, hard to believe he's just 20 years of age. Certainly running on some of that momentum provided by Gabriel Medina last year, winning the world title, first for Brazil. And it definitely inspired that whole generation of young Brazilians on tour. Seemed to reignite Adriano de Souza's fire, and it's going to be a great race.
Floodgates open, and Brazil has been on the map for a long time. I mean, even since I was on tour, there was a bunch of Brazilians in the mix, but now they're, you know, actually dominating and winning world titles. That's the difference. And you know, for me personally, you know, watching every event, I have a tough time even looking at where people are from. I just love to look at how these guys are surfing. So it's really kind of, for me, the nationality of a surfer has faded. I just love to watch good surfing, and every country is well represented.
2 minutes remaining in this heat. Felipe Toledo still hanging on to the lead. Thomas Hermes, he's broken away from the pack. He is on the search for a 3.43, not a massive number. But it's hard in this lineup, and also hard for a surfer to sneak onto the inside on a day like this when the waves are on the outer bank. A smaller wave isn't probably even going to break out there, so very difficult to find that low score.
Especially with the way the scale's set. We saw that last wave of Felipe had 2 nice snaps on his backhand and just a 4.93.
Adam Melling trying to set up the tube here, grabbing the wall of the wave now. Gets some cover, but that wave just pinching. A couple of times Adam's put himself on waves that have just been a little bit rough and hard to read. And as a result, he kicks on out with 1 minute to go, still looking for a 5.16.
You can see that white jersey right there on your screen. That's Tomas Hermes. It does look like he's created some space between him and Felipe, which is good news for him. So in the last minute, maybe he'll sneak one.
Well, there is some waves approaching the lineup at this stage. 50 seconds to go. And he's not going to get into this first one by the looks of things. Nervous times for Felipe Toledo. He wants to maintain title pace, and an early round win will do wonders for his campaign. 30 seconds to go. And here we go. This is Thomas not chasing a big score. Nice first turn to get started. Drives up into the lip once again. Just transitioning for the backhand floater. Trying to sell it. Did he do enough work? 15 seconds to go. First turn was strong. Well, here we go. This is Adam Melling. This is before the hooter, so Melling still with a chance too. Looking for a 5.16 with this ride. A couple of nice turns. This wave still holding up. Linking through to the inside. Melling has some speed, gets a clean finish, composed performance under pressure. The hooter sounds. The heat is over, and we're now waiting on scores to come through. I believe Felipe Toledo may have caught a wave also, so I'll bring that to you in a moment.
Fireworks there. So all three surfers getting pretty solid waves there. For sure, in my eyes, Thomas easily got the score he needs. 3 nice little snaps, 3.43. That's a no-brainer. But Felipe was behind him, and he tucked into a nice barrel, Ronnie, and he's out. So right away, I'm thinking that's going to up the ante quite a bit for both Thomas and Adam Melling. So if I had to take a guess right now, I'm thinking Felipe will hold on to the lead, but the judges have got the work cut out. A little bit of homework here, some numbers to drop.
I didn't mind Thomas's first turn. The second turn was a bit of a transition, and the floater wasn't as critical as what he would have liked, but it will be close. Adam Melling, on the other hand, his wave just went a little bit fat, but he got a solid finish.
This is kind of a cool preview, Ronnie, to what maybe is to come. Look at this high tide reform. That wave shaped up for 2 pretty solid maneuvers there. We haven't seen a wave like that yet, so maybe with the water coming up, getting deeper, we'll see more of these types of wave ridden. But again, I really believe that that's a pretty solid barrel from Felipe, so he's going to up the ante. Right now, only a 3.43 is required by Tomas and a 5.16, but again, that is misleading.
Felipe's first wave, 0.5 throwaway. It was under the lip. Similar ride, his last, but no mistakes on the takeoff that time. Under pressure, doing well, grabbing the wall of the wave, finding some nice cover.
I was curious to why Felipe wasn't shadowing Tomas or Adam. He was just kind of off in his own zone, so he might have dodged a bullet there. If in fact he does better his score with that barrel, I was surprised he wasn't shadowing with his priority.
All the numbers starting to come through for Thomas Hermes, and it's a 5.07, so he moves into the lead for a moment. We're still waiting on numbers to come through for Adam Melling and Felipe. What a sleeper of a heat. Just woke up in the last 20 seconds.
It's a pretty big score, actually. 5.07. If you compare it to Felipe's 4.93, it was kind of a solid. It was a much bigger wave. And you had the snap on his backhand where he released the tail, and then another snap. So, you know, a solid score there from Tomas, but he had 3 quick maneuvers. So now we're waiting for Adam and Felipe. 2 more scores.
Yeah, I thought Felipe's 4.93 was stronger in my opinion.
Yeah.
I just thought Tomas surfed his wave really well, but the last section just it went a little bit fluffy, and the landing wasn't super critical.
Yeah.
But the judges looking at the replay of Adam Melling's last ride now.
Yeah, no doubt Tomas thinking 3.5, just get this thing done. And so here's the inside reform. Little 2-for-1, quick snap right back to the roof, and a floater. So very busy surfing, no real punctuation on that wave. There wasn't the no-brainer excellent score for sure, but we are grinding through here, and he only needs a 6.8. My gut instinct is he'll be under.
The 5.07, just to throw back to that for a moment, for Thomas Hermes, is the judges love it when you link those maneuvers together. And those 3 moves were in succession. Felipe's 2 big turns, they were kind of separate. He had to kind of milk the wave for a moment. But Adam Melling, he was chasing a pretty decent number to get into the lead. He didn't get it. He got a 6.2, so he's not going to take the win. And now the judges reviewing Felipe's last ride, the barrel. Well, he needs a 6.57.
He tucked in straight away. He had to drag his arm and really stall for that barrel. So it wasn't a super deep barrel from Felipe. They'll pick it apart. You know, he didn't ride on top of the foam ball, but we're looking at a 6.57 here. So that's just like a good barrel. They're not looking for something crazy.
They're not making it easy for the judges. This is one of those heats where it's a battle of the small scores. The judges are really looking for those critical moments in these rides that just weren't that critical because there wasn't a lot of size in the waves. So the heat is over. Scores coming through for Felipe. He needs a 6.57, and it looks like at this stage he might fall short. Thomas Hermes, he had a 6.5 early on, remained composed, only needed a 3.43 to get into the lead. He got a 5.07. Felipe Toledo's just put a 4.67 on the board, not enough. And Felipe and Adam Melling are going to have to fight their way through round 2. Thomas Hermes moving on through to round 3. More round 1 action to come right after the break. Former world champ Martin Potter and Joe Topel stepping in for the call.